Steve Baker, allegedly in his expose that he published in The Blaze, identified the Jan 6 pipe bomber. I say I've never mentioned her name because I can't remember her name, and B, it's also irrelevant. Steve Baker put out a piece after having checked with legal. It was logical, relatively compelling, and raised some serious issues about the official narrative in any case. And his argument was that it was a Jan 6 Capitol Police officer who he identified by way of gait analysis, which is, in fact, a legitimate form of analysis. It's sort of like fingerprint. I don't know if it's more or less reliable than fingerprint in the criminal law industry, but it's a legitimate form of identifying someone based on their walk, based on their gait, which is how they walk and what limps they might have, whatever. And there's various ways of assessing gait, like if you can get cell phone footage, cell phone data, like your gyroscopic movements of your hips are very, very unique. So Steve Baker, by way of gait analysis, identified who he thinks is the culprit. He may be right, he may be wrong. One thing that's for certain, however, undisputed, even Julie Kelly acknowledged it, is that the person that Steve Baker identified as allegedly being the pipe bomber was the same person definitively, by all accounts, and I don't think it's disputed, was one of the Capitol Police officers who is seen firing on the protesters, the Jan 6, I say protesters for lack of a better word, firing on them with rubber bullets in a manner that was described as qualifying as unlawful use of deadly force because of where those bullets were being aimed. So I say, one way or another, I mean, the idea that like Steve Baker's going to get sued by the woman for defamation, it's like, all right, okay, it might happen. Who the hell knows? There thus far has not even been, as far as I know, a request for a retraction. But if Steve Baker's wrong, so be it. It's nonetheless the same woman who, based on analysis, is on footage, camera, photographs, unleashing what experts qualify as potentially lethal use of force on the crowd, and some would argue in order to incite the crowd into some form of retaliatory violence. Okay. I did not have on Steve Baker. He has not yet done many interviews off Blaze that I know of. I had on Kyle Seraphin, then I had on Julie Kelly. And Julie Kelly's argument was that it's not her, the person that Steve Baker identified, because what was the reason that she gave? That her explanation was that she hadn't seen the expert analysis of the gait, the gait analysis of the evidence. She hadn't seen it, except there was some that was disclosed: the limp, which was favoring the right foot; the height, 5'7", which is the same height as the pipe bomber, and some other issues of proximity. So Julie Kelly wasn't convinced, and Julie Kelly has her own theory, which is that the pipe bomb wasn't actually placed at the time the FBI says it was placed. It was actually placed the next day. According to Baker's theory, the pipe bomb would have had to have been placed on January 5th and not January 6th. Julie Kelly's theory is that the pipe bomb was placed on January 6th by the woman she believes did it, who she more or less identified, but I forget her name as well because I don't care about her name. But the one who claimed to have found it while she was going to do her laundry, Julie Kelly thinks that's suspicious, that story. So that's her theory. And the one thing I said to Julie is, like I said, we had this whole back and forth about how the FBI then cleared an individual person of interest too, who was the one taking pictures and took a picture of the very same dumpster where the bomb was found the next day. That individual was cleared by the very same corrupt FBI that we believe is behind the Fedsurrection. Julie believes that exoneration, and yet simultaneously doesn't even believe that FBI, or even the current FBI for that matter, as to their official timeline of events. Okay. CBS News puts out a story yesterday purporting to debunk Steve Baker's story. What's even more amazing about it, is that it's, more or less of an attempt to discredit Steve Baker's story. It actually is more of an attack on Tulsi Gabbard and the ODNI. Now, because I'm an idiot, where is the article? I'm going to have to pull up the article I thought I had in the book. CBS News, pipe bomber. Let's just get this right here. Oh, yes. How an innocent woman's name. Listen to this. And if you know the way CBS News works, it's not because how an innocent woman's name was tied to the Jan 6 pipe bombs. Let's walk through this, shall we? By Jennifer Jacobs, Pat Milton, Artem Farhi. A federal security officer linked to a thwarted Jan 6 pipe bomb attack cleared her name by providing an alibi. This is not the Babylon Bee, people. This is real. A federal security officer linked to a thwarted Jan 6 pipe bomb attack cleared her name by providing an alibi. Video of her playing with her puppies at the time the devices were placed, sources told CBS News. We're going to get back to that in a second, people. This was 5 years ago. She would have allegedly have just been cleared within the last 3 weeks since Steve Baker posted the story. She would have been cleared based on a video of her playing with her puppies at the time the devices were placed 5 years ago. So the questions that I have, which I would love the FBI to answer. First of all, the FBI has yet to formally confirm this story. So that's another question I've actually asked via social media. You know, the FBI rapid response is very quick on responding to certain stories. Can they confirm or deny this? But let's just set aside the FBI confirming this. The idea is that she cleared herself by providing an alibi. She was playing with her puppies at the time the bombs were placed. Okay. Does she have the same cell phone that she had 5 years ago? Is my question. I don't know, and this is, a first world luxury. I don't know anybody on earth who's got a 5-year-old phone. And I'm not saying this is a snob. I'm sure there are, actually I should say that. I know a few people who might have a phone that's 5 years old. I don't know many people who have a phone, dangerous sight, that is 5 years old. Let me just go back. We're going to come back to that in a second because I don't know what the heck just happened here. CBS News. Is this a real? So that's one question. She has the same phone from 5 years ago? The other question is, how do they check the metadata on that video? The third question is, where was that video? Is that video posted on social media? Is that video still on her phone? It's one thing to have the same phone from 5 years ago. There are data issues. I mean, I go through 1 terabyte every 4 months or 5 months on my phone. The excuse is laughably insane. When were the pipe bombs placed? According to the FBI, it was like, I want to say 7 o'clock. It might have been 17. It was the evening before on January 5th in the early evening. Okay, let's get back to the article because it's hilarious. All right. The FBI has now ruled her out as a suspect in the 2021 plot, according to 3 sources, but only after her name circulated on social media and platforms and conservative news sites. Now, the 3 sources don't mention if it's FBI as one of the 3 sources. It could very well be her lawyer, her mother, and her best friend. I don't know. I'm just making that up. It doesn't say that it was confirmed by the FBI. How an innocent woman's name came to be publicly linked to the unexploded pipe bombs is a question that has raised concerns among some senior officials of the Trump administration. CBS News is not naming the security officer or her workplace. Well, this is public knowledge that the person Steve Baker identified as the potential pipe bomber was hired by the CIA. This was even discussed with Julie Kelly, who acknowledged that whether or not this identified person is the person who planted the pipe bombs, Julie Kelly and I both agree that she violated the civil rights of the protesters by using potentially lethal force on them by firing her rubber bullets and pepper spray at above shoulder levels of the crowd. They won't identify where she works? Well, that's some great effing journalism, CBS. How about you say that she went from Capitol Police to the CIA? Or whether or not she works at the upper levels with Ratcliffe, or she's what do they call it? A campus security at the CIA? She went to the CIA. Oh, you don't want to identify that because you don't want to be unfair to the person. First of all, even Baker's article said 90 some odd % certainty, and when I was discussing, it's like, all right, well that's 8% chance that he's wrong. They don't want to identify her workplace, and they cloak that as responsible journalism when in reality, ignoring the fact that the person who, pipe bomber or not, fired on the protesters and is now employed at the CIA is relevant for everything. Federal agencies she protects declined to comment. So federal agencies she protects declined to comment. So the CIA refused to comment. As far as we know, the FBI hasn't commented. Listen to this. Multiple sources said the unit overseen by the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, drafted a memo. Now we sort of understand how much more credible. Like they purport to debunk Steve Baker's story. Now we understand how much more credible it actually is, because whether or not it originated within the DNI, or whether or not Baker got his lead from the DNI, it seems that the DNI drafted a memo suggesting this person might have been the person. Multiple sources said, okay, Tulsi Gabbard drafted a memo identifying the woman and describing allegations that she had placed the explosive devices outside the Democrat and Republican Party offices. The memo was written after ODNI was made aware of allegations from an outside source, an ODI spokesperson said. ODNI officials said the agency received a tip from a person affiliated with a media organization about a potential criminal wrongdoing. So it might be that Baker thinks he broke the case, reaches out to the ODNI, and they draft a memo potentially identifying this person. All right. Copy of the unfinished memo was given to senior staff at the security officer's workplace, sources said. It also circulated among a few Trump administration officials, building expectations that the nearly 5-year-old case might be solved. But the memo caught some officials at the FBI, Justice Department, and White House off guard, the sources said. What's interesting is, you recall in the Charlie Kirk assassination, Kash Patel was alleged to have gotten angry at Joe Kent and Tulsi Gabbard for investigating a potential terrorist link to the Charlie Kirk assassination. So this is not implausible on its face. It's coming from CBS News, so I'm inclined to think everything they have to say is a lie, but this is not implausible based on other reporting of other incidents that we've heard. ODNI oversees the nation's foreign intelligence gathering, has limited domestic investigative authorities. The FBI is leading the pipe bomb investigation. All right. A short time after the unfinished memo began to circulate, the conservative news outlet The Blaze published details similar to those in the draft, including the woman's full name. The November 8 Blaze news article claimed that it had pinpointed the woman after a review of video evidence and gait analysis. Software matched her walking pattern to the gait of the person shown in the surveillance footage, who authorities suspect planted the bombs outside the party offices January 5th. Blaze News said its work has been confirmed by several intelligence sources. Several sources told CBS News that the classified draft memo, classified, doesn't mean it's accurate, it's classified, which was on ODNI letterhead, was written by Paul McNamara, excuse me, who's the head of the Directors Initiative Group, which is tasked with providing transparency and accountability. Spokesperson Olivia Coleman said ODNI followed its obligations to report information received concerning the alleged activities of a member of the intelligence community to that person's employing agency. After a whistleblower came forward with an allegation, ODNI documented the accusation and lawfully reported it, fulfilling our legal duty to alert appropriate agencies when alleged potential security concerns are brought to our attention. Coleman said there was no predetermined conclusions or assessments made, and every action taken was done so in consultation with legal counsel. Blaze became the subject of extensive media coverage and discussions on social media, especially among supporters of Mr. Trump. So the bombing planting incident is one of the lingering mysteries it's a mystery, my ass. ODNI officials also said the draft memo hadn't been reviewed or approved by agency leadership. It's amazing what they're trying to do is sow discord now among the ODNI and make them look incompetent, make them look like there's internal conflict. Sources said this situation and others were viewed internally by some senior administration officials as interfering in areas that were beyond the purview of the National Intelligence Director's Office. Axios reported, was this one? Yeah. Axios reported in September that Justice Department officials believed ODNI had hindered their case against former CIA Director John Brennan. New York Times in October reported that ODNI had accessed FBI investigative files regarding to Charlie Kirk. So this is the debunking, by the way. Understand everything that we just read in that article. 95% of it was a hit piece on the ODNI. The debunking was a video of the alleged person identified by Steve Baker playing with her puppies at the time the bombs were allegedly placed. I'm not privy to any internal information. I have been sent other people's hard work, which I'm not going to disclose because it's their hard work that they should, break to the extent that this is ever confirmed by the FBI. But when the alibi is someone playing with their puppies at the time the bombs were placed, well, some investigative journalists might want to say, all right, how many dogs does this individual have today? Unless some of those puppies went the way of Christy Nome puppies. Bada bing, bada boom. I'm sorry, I couldn't avoid that joke. If playing with puppies is multiple animals of a certain age, how many dogs does a suspected person have currently, and how old were they at the moment the pipe bombs were being placed? I'm sure CBS News looked into that. I'm sure other people are like, oh, well, it's debunked. Move on. Sue Steve Baker have looked into that. We'll see. But the debunking is based on one line in the first paragraph. The alibi is a 5-year-old video, allegedly, with the metadata, allegedly, at the time the pipe bombs were placed, allegedly. That is the alibi exonerating. And now we can all move on and say, well, they did what they could. And then bringing it back to the disagreement with Julie Kelly when I had her on, and she's like, well, I don't even believe the timeline. It's like, okay, so I asked her, in light of this article, if you don't believe the pipe bombs were placed at the time that they were placed at, how does this alibi actually exonerate the person? If anything, this now adds, even if you thought the pipe bombs were placed the next day, this would strengthen or at least leave intact the theory against the individual. They don't have an alibi that even fits with the belief. If Julie Kelly believes the pipe bombs were placed the next day, this woman showing that she was playing with her puppies, plural, of a certain age at 7:45 on January 5 because of the metadata on a video doesn't absolve her if these pipe bombs were in fact placed at another time. And then the one question which we didn't actually get an answer to is, during the interview with Julie Kelly at least, was the evidence that allowed them to come to the determination, the FBI that is, that the pipe bombs themselves were in fact placed at that time. They have the picture of the person in the hoodie. The question that I don't yet have an answer to, or I'm not sure about, is when they say they were placed at this particular time, is it because they have video footage of the individual in the hoodie putting the package down at that particular time, or they're just guessing based on whatever? But now, speaking of, am I going to go into the entire video? Mike Benz was on Benny Johnson. And I won't play the entire thing. I'll give you the link to the tweet and I'll read you the summary of what Mike Benz says. Look, it's not complicated if we want to get to the bottom of the Jan 6 pipe bomber. Mike Benz sends a direct message to the FBI and the DOJ on how to immediately fix the J6 pipe bomber crisis and deliver transparency to the American people. 1, upload all 39,000 raw files of the pipe bomber from different angles. They have 39,000. If you ask me, it is impossible that they cannot find the pipe bomber, and it's impossible that they do not know who the pipe bomber is. Whether or not Steve Baker got it right, we'll find out sooner than later. He made a compelling case. And there's a lot of coincidences that come out of his compelling case that are astronomical in their improbability. 39,000 raw files. Upload them. Upload all 400 plus interviews the FBI conducted. Redacted as necessary. Upload the FBI, all FBI and DOJ forensic assessments. Upload every internal DOJ email and text message relative to the case. Run an internal search on main FBI agents and DOJ officials in charge of the investigation. Trace the physical chain of custody for the cameras and footage. Request all data from the pipe bomber's phone. Well, that would presume that they know who the pipe bomber is or the suspect. Let us bring your long arm of the extension to help. Let us be your long arm extension to help with this. By the way, the term autists at 4chan could figure this out in a heartbeat. Let us be the long arm. That gives us something to do with the real evidence and real facts to add to our public body of record while continuing to run the traps internally. We're over 4 years past it. You can't hide behind ongoing criminal investigations anymore. This has been 4 years. Help us help you. Some might say that the deliberate nefarious plan is to let the statute of limitations run on this because of reasons, which I have no idea about, but that is one of the conspiracy theories. There's the link to the tweet. Now, also an interesting thing in terms of allegations. Thomas Massey. I'm going to play the entire thing, and I think it's important to play the entire thing. Listen to this.
Also, I'm going to say this here on camera because it's important. One of Kash Patel's staff threatened my staff with a criminal investigation if we didn't straighten up and play ball.
I was going to ask you about that, but since you brought it up, and I didn't,
I'm bringing it up.
Okay, you brought it up.
And so, like a criminal investigation having nothing to do. He said it was going to be a fraud. We're going to investigate one of your staff for fraud. Right. And he told another one of my staff this. If you guys don't straighten up, if you want to play hardball, if this is how you want to play it or something like that, this member of your staff is going to get criminally investigated for fraud. A very specific threat.
Right.
And that had just happened. So I told Bongino, I said, one of your guys is threatening my guys with an FBI investigation if we don't do what you want. And he said, I'll take care of that. I'll take care of that. Because even he understood that was not a good look. It's probably illegal, right? So the fallout of that is the FBI employee who threatened my staff. I have to tell you all this, by the way, Steve, and I have to tell all the listeners this, because this is the context in which I'm worried for the whistleblower. If they're willing to retaliate against a congressional office, which has speech or debate immunity and a lot of other protections, they may be willing to retaliate against a whistleblower.
Now, let me bring up the tweet because it's somebody who's got all of the.
Also, I'm going to say this hearing.
All of the telltale signs of idiocy in the banner. Anti-fascist. I believe they're on Blue Sky as well. Blue Sky. There we go. And the Ukrainian flag in bio. So you can forgive the person for getting something wrong. Cash threatened Massey's staff with an FBI investigation over Epstein. Bingo Bongo tried to clean it up. It's probably illegal, right? Well, I listened to what Massey said. First of all, it wasn't about the Epstein debacle. This was about the Jan 6 pipe bomber. Allegedly, if you believe Massey. Bingo Bongo didn't try to clean it up. It sounds like Bingo Bongo, Dan Bongino. I'm not using that term to call him that. Dan Bongino. It sounded like he has the integrity that I sincerely believe he has. And he's like, this isn't right. I'll take care of this. Not in the sense of covering it up. I'm going to go talk to somebody if this actually happened. I don't know that we've had an actual confirmation or denial from the FBI. This is Thomas Massey's affirmation in an interview with Steve Baker. Some will say Steve Baker has an interest in potentially this narrative. I don't know that the FBI's and Kash Patel have confirmed or denied this. But even listening to that, first of all, it was about the pipe bomber, allegedly. And it sounds like Dan Bongino's like, yeah, this is not how things are done at the FBI, and did what he had to do. But this does not sound like an FBI under the director of Kash Patel that is doing everything he can to use the aggregate knowledge of whistleblowers and independent journalists. This sounds like a Kash Patel who gets angry when Joe Kent and Tulsi Gabbard impede or encroach on the Charlie Kirk investigation. And allegedly, arguably, when we saw the back and forth on Twitter a little bit, where Thomas Massey said, look, it looks like there's some retaliation against the pipe bomber whistleblower. But at the end of the day, what I find truly surprising is the FBI rapidly responds to certain things, but not to others. Does the FBI and Kash Patel have a statement on what Thomas Massey is saying? I'm not taking Thomas Massey at his word here at all. This is what he said. I don't think I'd be shocked if he would lie about something so big to such a massive audience. Was there a misunderstanding? Was it a rogue element, a young gung-ho, young, dumb, and full of testosterone individual at Kash Patel's FBI thinking he was doing the good work for Kash Patel? Did it happen? Is there a response? Is there a response to the CBS News article? And is the FBI actually going to make the argument that the exonerating piece of evidence, the alibi, is a video of the suspected person playing with puppies on January 5 at 7:45 at night on the eve of Jan 6? We'll see. That debunking is no debunking at all. It's almost laughably stupid, and almost as laughably stupid as the alibi. It couldn't have been me. I was playing with my puppies at 7:45, and here's the video on my iPhone. Good sir, look at this. That's me. Those are my puppies. Yeah.